Much of what you've heard about Jesus' birth is probably wrong. Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Pierce. I did the research and wrote the most accurate book about Jesus' birth and the 2 years surrounding that historic event. Here's how I happened to write this book. I was at a wonderful Christmas pageant that was complete with flying angels, donkeys, and even camels. It was a great performance filled with heart-lifting performances and songs, but what made it even better was several of my grandchildren were in the production. Now here came the questions. I'm a Bible scholar. I've translated the Bible Gospels and written a book on Jesus and the Gospels. I knew the presentation I had just thoroughly enjoyed wasn't the way it really happened. However, I didn't have any idea what did happen or even who these people really were. I had studied and heard about Mary and Joseph all my life, but I never got to know who they really were and what this whole event was about, how it really happened. I'm a research doctor, so I just had to find out. My first big surprise was that there are hundreds and hundreds of documents from this same time period or shortly after that tell us a lot about the people, the places, and even what happened. Wow, what a treasure for a researcher. I gathered all I could find and started reading, taking notes, and constructing a timeline of the events as they unfolded. What a fascinating time. What an interesting group of people, and what a series of events that surrounded the birth of Jesus. Now that I had hundreds of pages of notes and thousands of pages of historic material, what was I going to do with it? I had to tell people the story. I started giving some talks to friends, church groups, and family. My wife gave me the inspiration to tell the story firsthand, as if we were really there. So that's what I did. The story starts with my wife and I taking a time cruise back in time and arriving at the Nazareth temple about 1 year before Jesus is born. When the temple priest comes into the main temple room and discovers us there, he's startled that we're there, and we explain that we're there from a distant land seeking Joseph, whose family lives in and around Nazareth. Joseph happens to be at the temple, and the priest introduces us to him, and he proceeds to take us on a guided tour around Nazareth and then over to the family's home. It's at his family's home that we are really introduced to first century life. It's different in many ways than I had imagined. The dress, the meals, the beds, the sleeping arrangements, and then finally the bathroom. We share all of this with you in the book as we experience it ourselves. Even though life was quite different than I expected it, I fell in love with the way of living. It was so real, so connected, and so fulfilling in so many ways. I think you'll fall in love with it also. It isn't long until we meet Mary's mother, Anna, and then Mary. Mary is just arriving from Jerusalem, where she's been living at the temple since she was 3, and now she's 14 and ready to have a husband chosen for her. I found the entire process from the ancient documents about the selection process for Mary's husband very difficult and even strange. I just went ahead and told the story like I found it. I am sure that you'll find it strange way to make an important decision also. Anyway, we know that it all worked out and Joseph was the perfect choice for the job. We accompany Mary and Joseph on the entire trip to Bethlehem. The Romans are there and take the tax payments and get everyone registered for the census. Bethlehem was Joseph's hometown, where he grew up and still had most of his extended family there. Everyone's homes were full of travelers, so Mary and Joseph went to the shepherd's cave right outside the little town. The surprising thing was that it was quite large and set up for people to stay in. We then had Jesus' birth. Jesus came into this world just as miraculously as he lived in it. The evening of Jesus' birth and throughout the next days, there is a constant stream of visitors. The shepherds who have been told by what they describe as angels from heaven, when they go around telling everyone else, and before we know it, everyone had to come and see. when things finally settled down, it's time to find a new place to live in Bethlehem. Things hadn't gone good at all in Nazareth since Mary was pregnant and they weren't married. Joseph and Mary just barely escaped being killed by all of the people and the church. The law was that if a woman is pregnant out of wedlock, she was to be stoned to death. Joseph had a dream from God and decided to keep Mary safe, but it almost cost him his life also. I didn't realize things were so tough for the couple. This situation wasn't just tough, it was hostile and downright dangerous. Joseph established his carpentry shop in Bethlehem, and Jesus grows up for a little over a year there. It was a busy year in Bethlehem, and you will get to meet the young boy Jesus. There are so many stories about Jesus growing up that I didn't know about. I included a few of the childhood stories that were found in several of the historic documents. You'll find the childhood experiences with Jesus as interesting and as challenging as I did. A little over a year after Jesus was born, the little town of Bethlehem was rocked to its foundations when the wise men came for a visit. This was a huge caravan of men, people, animals, and soldiers. There were almost as many people in the caravan as there were in the little town. These kings were fascinating to me. I know you'll love meeting them also. The kings were able to visit Jesus and his family several times over the couple of days. As best as I can find out, the wise men presented their gifts to Jesus on Christmas Day. That makes Christmas even more meaningful than ever. The king's visit is cut short by Herod's armies descending on the little town to make the kings go back to Herod. The kings were warned in a dream and got on their way right before the armies arrived. However, the second thing Herod gave orders for was to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and the surrounding area who were 2 years old and under. This turns out to be a horrific situation. Joseph and Mary barely escaped with the baby Jesus. I had one woman say she was sure she was having heart palpitations and cold sweat while she was reading it. Joseph had been told in a dream to leave and go to Egypt, so he took his family there until Herod died. We leave Joseph and Mary as they start their journey south to Egypt. When the Holy Family is safe on their way, my wife and I return from our time cruise. What an experience that I want to share with you. Now you need to decide how you want to receive your book. Dove Publishing has made it available at a price everyone can afford. It's available for your Nook or your Kindle with a 20% discount and as a printed book with a huge 50% discount. Click on the way you would like to receive your copy or copies. Enjoy the experience.